Loki, the God of Mischief, is one of the strongest supports in Marvel Rivals. But if you're not playing him right, you're missing out on a ton of value, and in this guide I'll break down exactly how to master Loki and climb through every rank from bronze to eternity. Whether you're just trying to pick him up or looking to refine your gameplay at the highest level, here are some tips from an eternity Loki player. Before you can dominate as Loki, you need to understand his abilities inside and out. For this guide, I'll be referring to his abilities as the following. Your first goal to get out of bronze is to get comfortable with each ability. Learn the ranges, the cooldowns, the interactions. Once you've got down, you can start using them a lot more effectively. I highly recommend looking at the hero information tab and just reading what they do and just playing around in quick play and the training range just to get comfortable. Just by understanding how your abilities work and when to use them, you're setting up a solid foundation for yourself, and you should be able to climb through bronze pretty easily. I honestly just recommend playing and just gaining the experience and comfort. With your settings as well, make sure your sensitivity feels good, your monitor's at a good level, all that stuff. It's all the little things that add up. So now we're getting into silver. This is when the details and information start getting a little bit more in depth. Now that you're understanding Loki's kit, it's time to start using his abilities properly in real matches. This is where a lot of players make mistakes, so let's go over how to get the most out of each ability. First up is the clone abilities. These aren't just for distractions, they're a core part of your kit. You always want to place your clones in a safe location for a quick escape. A good way I like to think about it is place your clones in places where you would like to play as yourself. Places that are safe and have good vision across the whole map. You want to maximize the lane vision, just how far can they see and what can they see, and what they see, is it valuable or is it just nothing? Also want to make sure they're in spots to where their shots aren't getting blocked by the environment. So if they have like a wall in front of them, then their shots are going to get blocked. Like the Convergence spider map, there's an arcade on first point. If you put your clone in the first window, half of the shots can get blocked by the little window if you're looking too low. See your teammates are about to die or start getting critical, you can place the clone on them and then activate runes to save their lives. Block something major, like a Magneto ult. If you're walking towards the objective, you can also spawn your clones ahead of you and then swap to them, just to get to the objective faster, and if you're on defense, you can get there earlier and set up way beforehand. The clones will also mimic your actions, but on a slight delay, so that enemies can tell the difference, but whatever you do, they will do the same thing. If you shoot one wall or one target, they will also shoot that one spot. If you melee, they will also melee. If you're looking up, they will look up. They'll do exactly what you're doing. Or just keep in mind that your clones cannot heal you if you start shooting at your own feet. Next up, we have our swap ability. Your swaps is what keeps you alive, but you need to use it in the right way. If you are being targeted, swap to a clone instantly to reposition yourself. If you are not looking at a clone, swap will teleport you to the closest one, so always be aware of where your clones are. Swapping moves the clone to your position, so keep that in mind when you're trying to place your runes. When you are in danger, you can swap out and immediately activate invisibility to reset and find a better position while healing yourself over time. The invisibility isn't used as much as the others, however it does have its uses. Something to note is that if you are invisible, you can still place down other clones without revealing yourself. However, taking damage or shooting will reveal you. While you are invis, enemies can also hear your footsteps, so be careful. The invis can also act as a third clone charge mid-fight, so if your cooldown is going for clones, you can instantly spawn one at your position so you can save a teammate who's getting hurt. Now we're gonna cover backstab. One of Loki's passives is that he does extra melee damage when attacking from behind, but let's be real, this is mostly just used for the achievement. It is pretty useless. It is almost never a good idea to copy anyone who's not a support with a defensive ult, because you build your ult so quickly and a defensive support ultimate is almost always guaranteed value. However, every time you use a DPS or tank ult, it's a little bit of a gamble. If your time is low and you activate a copied ultimate, your timer will extend to get the value of that ult out. So if you copy someone like Luna and you pop your ultimate with 1 second left, you'll get to stay as Luna for an extra 12 seconds. But the timer will give you a few extra seconds to play as them, so you'll go from 1 second to 15. Or if you copy someone like Bucky, you get to stay as Bucky until your ultimate is over, because every time you pop again, it'll extend your timer. And finally, we have our Hela team up. When this team up is active, you'll drop your scepter on death, and if Hela gets a final hit, you'll be revived. And if you're still alive when Hela gets final kills, you'll receive 50 over health and shields. If you apply this knowledge, you should be able to use it to climb out of silver in no time. Now let's cover gold. Now that you're comfortable using your abilities, you need to start thinking ahead. Positioning is the difference between an average Loki and a great one. You need to start placing your clones in places that are safe so that the clone isn't immediately destroyed. You also have to remember that you have a long range weapon, so you don't need to be in the front lines with your tanks. You can sit back a little bit and just spam where you need to. Or you can even just hold your off angle. You also need to start looking at the scoreboard more often just to see what the enemies are running and if they have any counters. And if they do have counters, you need to know how to play against that. You need to check, oh, do they have a Moon Knight? Do I need to start placing my turrets further away? Do I need to save my runes for Psylocke ults? Little things like this can make a huge difference. You also need to give your clones maximum line of sight of the area that you are playing in, just so that they're running at maximum efficiency. If you are struggling with aim, shoot your enemies and allies at their feet for splash damage since you have huge range. And the explosion is just massive. One thing a lot of players overlook, on the left side of your HUD, you can actually see how many clones you have active and their current HP. You need to start getting comfortable reading that number so you always know how many clones you have up and their states. Now we are going to head to Platinum. In Platinum, you need to start creating pressure and not just reacting to fights. You cannot be heal botting as Loki anymore. You need to always keep your clones up so that you're maximizing your healing and damage output. You need to start destroying deployables when possible. You can instantly blow up Namor squids, onks, and even enemy Loki clones and their runes. Loki also has the best environmental damage out of all the characters, so you can destroy things before the enemies even show up. So you can destroy like the bridges on Wakanda so that the enemies cannot reach you. As Loki, you are very good at creating a presence and pressure on the enemy team. So you always want to have your clones also pressuring choke points so that you can spam it down and enemies will have funnel through into your shots and just give you a ton of ult charge. You might even get a free kill out of it. And if you have a tank who's brawling like Thor, then they will also get healed and can get more value. You also need to start getting in the habit of ult tracking, because if you start getting better at that, you know when to save your runes and for what.
By the eye of Agamotto!
This is real firepower!
If you notice the enemy Psylocke hasn't ulted in a while, you can save your runes for her ultimate. You also need to start thinking about your escape plan before things even happen. You need to know where do you want to escape, how do you want to escape, what do you want to use, where do you want to go. You need to keep all this in your mind in case things go wrong. You should be starting to have clone placement positions in the back of your mind now, so you just know where to throw them without even having to think about it. Set up your team for an advantage before the fights even start, so if you're setting up correctly, you'll always have the advantage. Now we are heading to Diamond. By Diamond, you need to be thinking ahead in every fight. This is where the macro play and fast decision making become crucial. And for those who do not know what macro play is, it is the plays you make with your team and how you follow up with each other. You should be getting comfortable tracking enemy ults and their cooldowns just so that you know when to do what you need to do. You should also be able to place your clones down without even thinking about it at this point. You need to be prepared to counter enemy divers as well with your runes and your clone swaps.
Feeling fantastic.
Loki has a very long reload animation, so avoid reloading mid-fight and don't waste your shots on teammates that are full HP or just shooting at nothing. As Loki, you need to keep an eye on your other support. If they're being pressured or dove, you need to peel for them and clone with your clones and your runes, and you cannot let them die. You essentially need to be like a babysitter if they're running dive. Now that you're in Diamond, you will be seeing hero bans. If you can look at what the enemy is banning, you can always kind of tell what kind of comp they want to run. So just keep that in your mind. I'm going to be putting up a little graphic on the screen so you can see what you can shut down, what shuts you down, and what is about 50-50. But you should be very comfortable with canceling certain ults. Your mechanics should also be improving by this point, so if you're missing a lot of shots, you might need to go practice your aim a little bit. You should also be getting very comfortable with your escapes and your resource management. You should almost never die with cooldowns available to you. You should also be very efficient at shutting down dives and blowing up whoever is trying to commit the dive. You need to always be keeping an eye out on what your enemy and teammates are doing and just following up on your teammates. If you see them setting something up, you should always try to follow through with them. A great call out I like to make is a countdown for when my ult is about to end. So if I copy a enemy Luna, I'll tell my team, hey guys, dance is ending in 3, 2, 1, just so that they're prepared for it to end. And this tip applies to every character, not just Loki, but you need to have a good mental if you want to climb in ranked. If you get tilted very often, you need to just hop off the game so you don't tilt queue. If you think a game is losable, just don't give up and still play it out, because you never know. You can still win the game. It's never over until you see the defeat screen. A weak mental can cause you to lose more games than you would even know. A rule I follow myself is I just hop off ranked if I lose 3 games in a row. You also need to start trying to learn when a fight is won and when a fight is winnable and when it's losable. So if you see like, oh, both your tank and your other support died, then the fight is most likely lost. However, if you're the one with 2 kills above the enemy team, then it's won on your side or it's very winnable. So you need to know when to push forward and when to fall back. Now we're getting to the big leagues and now we're in Grandmaster. From this point, you should be very good at ult tracking. You should always have an idea of what ults have been used, what ults they're gonna use, and what ults they're gonna have in the fight that's coming up. and you should have a plan in your mind on how to react to those ultimates. You should know in your mind, do I want to use my runes? Do I want to teleport out? Do I want to go invisible? Do I want to copy a support ult? You just should have an idea on what you want to do. You also need to start communicating a lot more with your teammates. You should have started doing this in Diamond as well, but in GM especially, you need to communicate with your other support like, hey, I'm going to ult first, don't support ult with me, or hey, you go first. Because if you double support ult, you're kind of just throwing the game and then like fights afterwards as well. Loki can build his ultimate quite fast, so you should also be getting very comfortable at building it fast just so that you can go aggro or defend really quickly. You should also be getting very good at identifying targets and executing them, so if you see someone standing on the side by themselves, you can have your clones target them with you and just blow them up really quickly. So if you see like a Cloak and Dagger or like a Luna or a Sue, just anyone, or even a Punisher turrets, you can blow them up pretty quickly. And even if you don't get the kill, but you get them to use resources, like if you shoot a Cloak and Dagger and they use their Fade, that's still good value because it costs you nothing to do that. And now they have to wait for that cooldown to come back. You should also be very efficient in placing your turrets at this point. You should also be able to place your clone on a teammate that's critical and rune very quickly. It should just be a second nature and muscle memory to you at this point. Once you get to this rank, you should also be able to identify when it is time to reset and when to start setting up the next fight. So if you know you are definitely losing this fight without a doubt in your mind, then you and your team just need to fall over, jump off the map, run back, live or die on cart if you have to. You just need to set up and get another fight in as soon as you can. Or else you're just gonna keep staggering in and just never have a chance and give the enemy a huge advantage. If you've been practicing on how to read your enemies, you should be able to know exactly what they want to do by this point. You should have an idea on where they want to go. Do they want to flank you guys? Do they want to ult? Do they want a defensive ult? You should have all this like as a second nature. And like I said before, you should always never be the first one to die on your team unless it's like a random stray Hawkeye arrow. But in general, you should never be the first one to die. You have so much utility that keeps you safe. And if you just keep these tips that I've given you in mind and just keep grinding away in ranked, you should be able to hit Celestial in no time. Now we're in the major leagues. We are now playing in Celestial.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Everything is about team play here. You need to be able to play with your team and follow up with what they're doing. Every other step provided before this point should just be muscle memory, and you should be able to do it without even thinking. You need to have very good communication with your team. You always need to be on the same page as them, and they need to be on the same page as you. In Celestial, the solo carry potential drops by a lot. It's all about team play here. Sure, you'll have those games where there's someone solo carrying, but most of the time, it's just not gonna cut it. You're way better off having a good team with synergy. You need to be able to adjust your playstyle on the fly. If they're playing dive, you need to know you need to play defensive. If they're playing something that's more at a distance, you need to know, hey, I can spam into them. Are they playing brawl? Are they playing poke? Are they playing dive? You need to know all these comps and how to counter it as fast as you can. You got to be reading the enemies to the point where you know what they're going to do before they even do it. Does this team like to flank? Okay, let's set up clones to watch the flank. Do they want to run through main? Okay, let's do this. You just have to always be on top of everything. You cannot afford to autopilot here. You also need to start developing a mental image of where everyone is playing, just so that you can always take care of everything. So like, okay, my Luna is playing back, my tank is playing forward, my Namor is playing top right. You just need to know where everyone is, just so that you know where to escape to when you have to and who you need to care. And you need to be able to identify where your kill boxes are and how to make them yourself. A kill box is a spot on the map where your entire team can provide pressure from different angles. It basically creates a zone where if an enemy walks into it, you can just immediately punish them and blow them up for free. It's also a good idea to limit test to see, hey, how aggressively can I place my clones? Does this team like to break my clones? Do they like to flank? All this stuff, you just want to see what you can get away with just so that you can play optimally. But I truly believe if you just play Celestial while keeping these tips in mind, you can climb through it in no time. You just need to keep practicing and keep playing until everything becomes comfortable and you're able to cooperate with your team. If you're just able to communicate what you want to do, why you want to do it, and how you want to do it, then you're just great. Just little things like telling your team, hey, I want to do this, I want to go do that, it can be a big game changer. you'll make it through Celestial in absolutely no time. Now we're almost at the finish line and we're in Eternity. In Eternity, it's all about consistency. In order to make it through Eternity and just stay there, you need to be able to play consistently without having off days. You need to be able to provide the same performance in every game. You need to not get tilted by your last game. You need to be fresh every game you play. You need to provide your A game. You need to play your best. Your mechanics should be pretty on point by now as well. If you're missing shots, then that is something you definitely need to work on. You can go play do matches, quick play on an alt account, hit the aim labs, do whatever you need to do. But if you're missing easy shots, that's going to be a problem. Once you're in Eternity, your positioning and your navigation in space should be on point. You should always know where to play and when to leave. You should also be really good at identifying what space is yours and what space is the enemies. Can you take their space? Is space open? Is the high ground on the top controlled by the enemies, or is it controlled by your team? If it's not controlled by anyone, can you take it for free? You just need to have all these things in your mind, and you should always take as much ground as you can. Just set up your clones in places to demotivate enemies from trying to take it from you. The more map control your team has, the easier the game is going to be. And if your decision-making skills are not at the level they need to be, you just need to keep playing and gain experience just so that you can make your decision faster without even having to think about it. It should be near instant. You should be able to make the right choices when you have to, without wasting time on hesitation, because hesitation can lose you games. Reaching Eternity isn't just about your flashy plays, it's about reducing your mistakes and maintaining a high level consistency in every match. And that wraps up the complete Loki guide from Bronze to Eternity. If you made it this far and you're serious about improving, that alone puts you ahead of most players. Whether you're just starting out or grinding at the highest ranks, mastering Loki takes time. But if you apply these tips, you'll start seeing results in no time. If you found this helpful, drop a like and let me know in the comments what rank you're at and what hero you would like to see next. If you have any questions or need more tips, I'll do my best to help out, and just ask in the comments and I'll respond to you as soon as I can.